This week we're in Dubai, covering a COVID-safe conference, flying cars, and we have liftoff. Winter sun, sand and skyscrapers. We're in Dubai. This sci-fi city in the desert is a far cry from my usual armchair. And in 2020 it was supposed to play host to some of the biggest events of the tech calendar. The World Expo has been pushed back 12 months due to the pandemic. I'll be visiting the site later on. But having an extra spot of time to get ready may have come in handy. This is the Museum of the Future. Yes, the Museum of the Future, only in Dubai. And what a building it is. There are still people working on it at the moment. It's been in development for quite some time, but it is due to open finally in 2021. And even we had to cancel our annual Click Live extravaganza. It was due to take place here in Dubai Design District, but hopefully it'll be possible next year. But I'm here because of this. Gitex is the only in-person technology expo that we visited this side of lockdown. And I have to say, it feels pretty surreal to be here. Yes, there are the usual conference halls, people in suits, and the obligatory booths with flashing lights and branded swag. Plus, COVID safety measures aplenty. More on them later.
People from around the world in this conference. And the UAE has always believed that if COVID is here, we'll have to live with it.
We're keeping our distance, but taking a close look. Nick Queck's been to see some of this year's best bits.
From money counters to K-pop to paper bags, Gitex 2020 is a melting pot of tech-tastic themes this year. Now, for its 40th anniversary, the usual suspects of 5G, artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things, and of course blockchain are all on the agenda. But perhaps more Dubai-centric are the fintech firms, cybersecurity companies, and future retail solutions on display.
Very generous with the sizing.
Over the 5-day event, attendees are treated with talks from big hitters like IBM, Facebook, Uber and Huawei, and words of wisdom from comedian John Cleese.
You must concentrate on creativity and innovation, otherwise you're dead.
Okay. Of course, no conference would be complete without bizarre robots, which come in all shapes and sizes here.
Hello there. Hello.
Naturally, COVID combating contraptions are being wheeled out, literally.
These were immense.
And Smart Dubai hasn't missed a beat. Their disease-focused simulation anticipates outbreak scenarios.
We use city simulation to look at the different policy options like opening restaurants, opening the schools, or going into hybrid modes, and what's the impact of that on the city. Having those capabilities are really important to support a smart decision making to the leaderships who are looking into managing the city.
Over to you, Lara.
I just can't believe I'm actually here. This year, our go-to trade shows like MWC and E3 have been cancelled, and even CES is going virtual next month. So for Gitex to actually happen, its organisers had to get creative. Thermal imaging cameras monitor people's temperatures as they enter the building. From there, live crowd monitoring technology tracks people's movements around the space, automatically limiting capacity in certain areas. There's no on-site badge collection, you have to print it in advance, lanyards are individually wrapped, and there are even PPE vending machines. Plus, the walkways have been widened and audience seating is, of course, socially distanced. There's even a PCR testing area and an isolation room over there. I think I might get away from this bit. So planning an in-person event wasn't easy, but Dubai wasn't backing down. A real-life tech event. People are actually here in 2020. How is this possible?
There is this undeniable need and urge for people to meet. And we've seen this. We need to go back to the way things were, right? Even though we need to take certain precautions into consideration, wearing masks, having the physical distancing and so on and so forth.
In terms of what's actually on show here at Gitex, what do you think are the most exciting things? Where has there been the best use of AI?
So there are a lot of use cases that we're excited about. We're seeing a lot of innovative Israeli startups, for example, looking at computer vision and applying it to self-driving cars, applying it to, for example, managing food waste, looking at how do we ensure that we can use AI to secure our water resources, our energy, and also ensure that we can improve quality of life in the UAE, which is very interesting and exciting.
And what sort of businesses are you seeing artificial intelligence being used in here?
Logistics is a strong suit for the UAE, so we're using AI in logistics to improve our ports, to improve our airlines, to improve logistics on the ground here in the UAE. We're using AI in oil and gas, for example, and we want to ensure that our natural resources can give us more bang for our buck. And we're also looking at how to use AI to improve quality of life through, for example, improving healthcare, diagnostics, for example. How do we make our doctors more efficient? Because if we do that, ultimately the top-notch talent that can work anywhere on earth today, because of the platforms that exist, because of what COVID has shown us, will choose the UAE as their home country to actually work from.
And another thing, you've also got the weather, Your Excellency. Thank you very much. Now back to Nick for a look at more at what's going on here at Gitex.
Thanks, Lara. Now, where was I? Ah, yes. This little fella.
One of the big themes this year is future mobility. How will we get around in years to come? Car, bus, massive flying drone taxi.
And for that, we're going to have to rely on some next-generation networks.
That will give you a fast network communication and also utilization or controlling of the flying objects, and also the low latency, where it's going to be really autonomous by utilizing the 5G networks.
One thing's for sure, the Emirates is no stranger to adopting unorthodox transportation. The police here have flying quad bikes, the fire department's got water jetpacks, and even the mythical Hyperloop has set up shop in the desert. Now regular taxis are getting an upgrade. The Road Traffic Authority unveiled this COVID cam concept, so drivers can be forewarned before picking up anyone with a suspected fever. And taking things to new heights is cybersecurity specialist Acronis with its flying race car ambitions. Usually behind the scenes of Formula 1, the NFL and Premier League football clubs, it's starting to deal in some pretty sci-fi sports.
Cronus Cyber Protect is an AI-powered integration between cybersecurity and data protection. Now we are looking forward to have partnerships with electric flying cars, and one of them is actually a partner that is based in Australia.
In Australia, and I went to meet them.
Is it a drone? Is it a plane? Is it the most cliched script writing you've ever heard? No, this, apparently, is the future Formula 1 of the skies. And I'm getting an exclusive world-first sneaky peek behind the scenes. Inside All Lauda's workshop, I'm meeting the makers of the so-called speeders of tomorrow.
Very sci-fi.
Yeah, that's what we're going for.
Like the Jetsons.
Since I was a kid, I always wanted to build a flying car. It's just one of those wild dreams that stuck with me. And racing is the first step in any mobility revolution.
And there are several steps to be taken. Regulation, safety, and that old chestnut, battery life.
Biggest issue you're going to come across in all electrical vehicles is that the battery capacity just isn't the same as using fuel. With fuel, as you burn through, you're going to get lighter. It's heavy. It's there the entire time.
In order to maximise the time they can spend in the sky, engineers have devised a quick swap-out, swap-in battery system so that during a pit stop, a battery can easily be put in and another one can be taken out.
What we're trying to develop right now is an initial prototype sliding system. No connections that you have to disconnect and reconnect. The connections are part of mounting that battery.
They're also aiming to increase that battery performance by 90% to be able to power all the smart gubbins that'll be inside this skybound bobsleigh.
There's so many different considerations, all the way from what props we pick, electronic speed controllers. We've got so much data that we need to capture from those systems with the collision avoidance system and all the different cameras, the LiDAR, radar and the machine vision, how we're processing that on board the vehicle and then transferring that down to the teams.
We're really excited about our partnership with Acronis. There's a lot of data coming out of each speeder every time we fly. Not just flight footage, but all the telemetry from all the subsystems. And it's important to capture that and store that securely. That's one of the most valuable things we have.
And just like motorsport, design is a closely guarded secret.
The biggest challenges were to get away from useless, fancy things, but at the same time keep that flying car look.
I'm told the speeders can carry loads of up to 150 kilos, and Lauda aims to get pilots on board as early as next year. But on the day, the team weren't able to show me any flying due to Civil Aviation Safety Authority restrictions. Just this rather creative footage they shot themselves.
So we're talking about putting people inside these things. Will it be safe?
There is an element of danger, of course, in any sport. Every mode of transport has danger, from the horse to the spaceship. But you know, racing is a way to control those dangers.
For safety purposes, we're going to have to make the cockpit slightly wider.
Yeah, I think you might be right about that one, Felix.